Hello, welcome to Scrap Time. My name's Christine, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how you can use your sprays with texture paste while the texture paste is still wet. Now I am using a watercolor card for most of this. You could probably use like a mixed media card. I wouldn't use any too thin of a paper because we will be spraying distress sprays and gloss sprays. So for this first one here, I used the Ranger Texture Paste Opaque Matte, and this paste really absorbs the color. I used distress stains in purples and reds, and you can see some areas where it's really dark. The paper absorbed it, and you can still see the texture. This, I think, is the Dylusion's old school stencil design. All the links to the products and the stencils and the names are all in the description under the video, so if you want to get the actual names, but I'm pretty sure this one's old school. And so because the distress stain, which is a dye, it's like this spray stain, it's a dye stain, because it really absorbed into the matte, I didn't do it with a gloss. I didn't think it was necessary. You can use this with your distress spray stain in any color, and the texture paste will absorb that color. So next I used the Texture Paste Transparent Matte. And again, that texture paste really absorbed that color. You can see the great greens and blues, but you have the really fun texture of the stencil as well. Now what was interesting though, I'm going to keep this one here, is on this one, I thought I'm going to do it with the Distress Collage medium, which is also a matte clear. And you get basically the exact same results. I purposely did the same colors, and both of them work similarly. Both of them absorb the ink while they were wet, and you get the similar effect. So you can use either product. So here we had, not that one here, this one, the transparent paste or collage medium, and you get basically the same effect. Now remember too, if you were to do this with the collage medium and let it dry and then spray, that collage medium would resist all your whatever was you put over top. So with that being said, you can take this and now take other inks and fill in that, and you can get some different things. So it will still work as a resist. So next up is the Texture Paste Crackle. So I did that, and I sprayed the Distress Stay Stains over it, and you can see that the crackle did absorb the color, and the crackles are in all different colors depending on the color of the spray. But I wanted to try it using the Dina's Gloss Spray, and so this is an acrylic paint versus the Distress Stain is a dye ink. So you're going to get two different effects. So here we have it, and you can see now how the gloss sits more on it. You still get the cracks, but it's a completely different look. I tried to use similar colors of the two products, but the gloss really sticks on top of the crackle paste, whereas on the stain it sort of soaks into it. So they both work, they both look good. It all depends the look you're going for. So next I want to try with black. This is the black modeling paste. So with the Distress Spray Stain, it just gets absorbed into the black, but you still get a pretty background, and then the black is forefront. So it doesn't make too much difference if you put the black paste on first. If you put it on when it's wet and then spray, you'd probably get a similar look. However, when I did it with the gloss spray, which as I mentioned is the acrylic paint, you can see how it sits on top of that paste and how you can get a completely different outcome between the two. So doing the exact same technique, but this is the gloss acrylic sprays versus the distress dye sprays for two completely different looks. So next up, I use the Crafter's Workshop Shimmery Goodness. And it too, and you see it absorbed, like it's a pearl color, but it absorbs some of that color. And you have a cool background there. But I wanted to try it again with the gloss. And again, you can see how with this one, it absorbs in, whereas with this one, it sits on top. But you get sort of that outline of the shimmer goodness around the color in that. So again, both work, both are cool. Just depends the look you're going for. So then I moved on to Vicki Boutin's Texture Iridescent. You can see it's an iridescent with little flecks in it. And so I did it in this red, and you should be able to see the sparkle. But I found the red, like the big chunks, really absorbed that red, and I wasn't too fond of this. So I want to try it again with greens. And I found in the green, I tended to like it a bit better than I did in the red. And especially those big chunks really took the ink, which sort of surprised me. I thought they might resist it more. But so then I wanted to try it with the gloss. And here you can see again the difference, whereas here it sort of takes it in, and on here it sort of sits on top. With these ones, me personally, I prefer the gloss, but both of them give you a cool effect. Okay, we're getting down there. So next up is the Deco foil, and this is the pearl. So here we have it with the spray stains, and again it absorbed in, but you still get that pearlized look, but it's multiple colors depending where the spray was. And then with the gloss spray, again it sort of sits on top and makes a little border, but I think it's pretty cool. And the last one was, I did the Metallix Gold. So with the distress sprays, it's sort of the gold, some of it went into the gold, other places just resisted it. So it's sort of a bit of both, a bit of resist, a bit of absorbing the color, which is sort of cool. And then with the gloss acrylic sprays, it really sits on top. But I really like it down here where we have that sort of marbling look to it. And I'm like, well, that could be sort of cool if instead of you putting it through a stencil, if you're just putting some gold onto a piece and then spraying it, you might get some interesting looks. But that's the difference between the distress sprays and the acrylic gloss. So I'm going to show you how to do this technique now that you've seen all the results. So as I mentioned, I use a watercolor paper, and I'm using this stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. And for this demo, I'm going to use Shimmery Goodness. So even though we have a lot of white on white going on, we'll be spraying it and you'll see the color. So what you do is you take your paste, and it's the exact same technique regardless of the paste you use. So you put it on and you put it through. You can cover the whole thing, you can just do part of it, it doesn't really matter. And it's like you're icing a cake. You want it thin, you just want it the thickness of the stencil. You don't have to put it on really thick or anything. For all these samples too, I let them dry. I did not heat them. I just put them aside and let it dry so the color could really soak in. And that's what I'll be doing today. I'm not going to heat it. You've seen the finished outcome already. I'm going to be using that again, so I'm going to leave it there. I'll put my stencil aside because I will use it. Just going to take this time to wipe up a bit of the excess. And to make cleaning up easier, I'm going to put down a paper towel to do my spraying, and I should just move my open bottle out of the way. So while it is wet, I'm going to take some sprays. I have Twisted Citron Distress Spray Stain. So as I mentioned, these are a dye ink. This is Peacock Feathers. And I have some Cracked Pistachio. And you want to give it a nice fair amount, and so it starts to absorb into the texture paste, the shimmery goodness. So you just do that, and you put it aside and let it be. Now, if you're getting a bit of too much ink, you can always just give it a little thing like that. I don't like to do that too much because I don't want my colors to blend too much. I sort of sprayed them and I like the variation of color. So I'm going to put that down there for now. And we're going to do it again. So I can show you with the acrylic. So we just put some on, put it through. And then afterwards, I'll clean off my stencil. I have a little container of water waiting that I'll just put it in, and the paste will come off the stencil in the water. Now that I've finished with the paste, I like to just clean off my palette knife while it's still wet. Close this up. Take it off. And this is a Crafter's Workshop stencil I'm using, and again, the link to it will be down below in the description. I'll clean that off better later. I'm going to get the same paper I had. So now I'm going to use Dina's Gloss Spray acrylic paint. You can hear there's a little ball in there. Because it's an acrylic, you want to give it a shake each time. That one was lime. This one is ocean. I like to overlap the colors too, so you get a bit of blending. While these are wet, they'll blend together. And this one is turquoise. And then you can go back to, and I might add a bit more of the lime to the turquoise, or even a little bit of ocean to this side. And now I am going to let that sit. So I'm going to bring over the other one. So you can already see on this one how the shimmery goodness is absorbing some color, but is also resisting some of it. Whereas here on this one, the color is sitting on top. So that's how you can use your texture paste while they're wet, and with the with the distressed dye inks and the gloss sprays, to get two different looks to your projects. So we are back, because after I finished the video, I started to wonder what would happen if I used Distress Oxide spray. Distress Oxide is a dye and pigment ink fusion. So it works different than just your Distress spray stains. So in the middle is the Oxide one, and you can see how it's has that whiteness to it. That's the whole sort of part of Oxide. So here you can see the stain and how it went into the Crackle. Then with the Oxide, how it sits on top and has that white oxided look to it versus the gloss gel, which is very bright. But they all worked with that's the Crackle paste. And then the black paste was interesting because you had the Distress Stain, which sort of soaked in, But again, look how the oxide sits right on top of that black paste in the oxide form where it's all sort of white. And then the gloss is glossy and sits on top. So the difference between the distress spray stains versus the oxide is a huge difference. This was the Shimmer. And you can see again, the oxide sits on top of the medium and has oxided out into the white pastel-y colors. This here is the Pearl Deco Foil Metallix. And because the pearl is sort of white, it's looking white, but that's also because of the oxide. As we've seen in the other ones, has that sort of white finish to it. Like, here, I'll show on the black again. Oh, wrong one. So it's sort of sitting on top of the pearl again. And then finally I did it with the gold, so you can see the difference. I find with the gold though, it's the one I like the least with the oxides, because you really lose a lot of the gold. So it really shows you how the oxide can sit on top of the medium and sort of hide it behind. Whereas at least even with the gloss, they still have that gold sort of shining through. And then of course the stain, you really see it. But it's interesting though up here though, this sort of effect I think is really cool. So there's different ways you can use the oxides, but I just wanted to come back and just show you what happens if you do this technique. You do it the exact same way that I demoed previously, but just using oxide sprays instead of the distress spray stain or the gloss sprays. Thanks for watching. Be sure to give our video a thumbs up and subscribe to Scrap Time videos on YouTube. In the meantime, here are a couple other videos you might be interested in watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.